Rolling down the boulevard in the speedboat Corvette, like a tail on a tornado ring, the promise soaked in sweat. One hand on the glass pipe, the other on the wheel. Devil riding shotgun, singing, boy, let's make a deal.
This is Groundless, a Justified podcast. This is a podcast where we watch every episode of Justified and then come on here and talk about it. I'm Chris. That man is Randy.
We're almost at the end of the road.
That's right. We are here to talk about Season 6, Episode 12, the penultimate episode of Justified. Only one to go. I'm not going to get emotional. You're getting emotional. Collateral. This episode originally aired April 7th, 2015. And our synopsis: Raylan and Boyd's paths cross as they search for Ava in the mountains. Markham recruits an unlikely ally to his cause. Written by Chris Provenzano and VJ Boyd. We know those guys. And directed by Michael Pressman, who did an episode last season. I think we introduced him when he did his first episode. It was the first new director we'd had in a while, I think. And he's back for his second episode of Justified, the next to last episode of Justified. And then we have a guest star this week. His name is Shea Wiggum. And he is the driver, the guy who Boyd pulls over and carjacks, essentially, makes him drive him around. He's a familiar face. You've probably seen him in a bunch of stuff. I think probably best known for Boardwalk Empire. He was in, I think, like 3 or 4 seasons. I think he was in basically every episode of Boardwalk Empire. And he's also been in the Fast and Furious series. So he was in F9. 6 and 4. So he was in a bunch of those. A few other things he's been in: Joker, the new Perry Mason series on HBO, The Righteous Gemstones, which is a fabulous show that also has Walton Goggins in it. Lawmen Bass Reeves, which is one that we had mentioned, I think, once before on the show. Across the Spider-Verse, Vice and Vice Principals. Vice Principals is another show with Walton Goggins. That's on Max. It's a comedy, 30-minute comedy, and it's fantastic. And Fargo, of course, the weird third season of Fargo, the little the kind of uneven one there. But yeah, definitely a familiar face. I remember seeing him originally and being like, oh, I recognize that guy. He's been in a bunch of stuff. So. And then, so before we get to our next segment, which is where we take a quick trip back and put the episode in its proper historical context, what did you think of the episode, Randy?
Well, it's definitely they could have done it in. It's basically a two-parter, right? Like these. So it's good. I really enjoyed it, and and there were some bodies this.
There were.
It's sad that it's coming to a conclusion, but I think that we're coming to like some of the best episodes of the series now. So
yeah, I agree. And this one, there are definite. It's a little bit uneven. I agree with you on that. There are some spots that the Ava Zachariah stuff drags a little bit, I think, but by and large, it's a pretty good episode. I think the whole, art pursuing Raylan thing is a little bit, also a little bit over the top, but it's fun.
You have 48 hours.
It's a lot of fun.
I guess you have to like give some sort of what's it called? Like you have to give them like a clock to go against, right? I don't know. Like, I mean, obviously we're coming to the last. This is the last 2 episodes, but I mean, to build tension, I guess you have to like do something like that. I guess.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent. And I in order to put together one of the special features we have for this episode, I had to go back and pull some clips from some very much older Justified episodes. And I was surprised at how closely this plot parallels the end of season 3, where, you know, you've got Limehouse sort of setting up Boyd, setting up Quarles, setting up Wynn Duffy all at the same time. And like, you know, Raylan's sort of behind the scenes causing all the chaos. And, you know, it's sort of like the contrast, right? It's the right way to do it is the way he did it in season 3. And then the wrong way to do it is the way he's doing it here, where he drops his badge and gun and just goes completely rogue and shooting in the dark at a target that he doesn't recognize.
Yeah. It really is him going like, because he's always been in that gray area, but he's really, I don't know. Would he be brought up on charges? Probably not. But
yeah, I mean, it's well, and leaving and you know, well, we'll get to that. So, but yeah, I think, you know, overall a pretty good episode, but you know, not next week's episode, that's for sure, which is an all-timer for sure. So
yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, before we get into the details of the episode, let's take a quick trip back to the week of April 7th, 2015 and see what was going on in popular culture at the time. And in order to do that, we'll need our time machine.
Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
And our number one movie this week, speaking of the Fast and the Furious movie series, our number one movie this week, Furious 7, $191 million in its first week. Just crazy amounts of money these movies bring in. I think this is not where I started watching them. I didn't start watching them until I think like 2019 or something. And then I caught up on all of them and went and saw the new one in the theater and saw the most recent one in the theater.
Are they on like Fast 10 or 11?
It was like Fast X was the last one. Yes, Fast X.
Okay, yeah. I like the Charlize Theron character.
I do too.
Whatever it was.
Cypher, I think they call her, which is a straight up rip off of The Matrix, but you know.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's trying to be all things to everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they're superheroes. You know, like I remember like seeing something about how they transitioned to being like superheroes when, you know, the first thing was there were street racers like boosting DVD players.
That's exactly right. They were stealing DVD players from semi trucks.
Yeah.
And then in Fast 9, at least, they went to space. So yeah.
That's right, in a Pontiac Fiero.
Ludacris and Tyrese went to space in a Pontiac Fiero.
Good God!
How did we get here?
Yeah, I mean it's so bonkers now, right? So it's people love it. I find that these later ones entertaining, but they're just so crazy.
Oh yeah, no, it's just you suspend all disbelief. There's no laws or rules or natural order of anything that applies. You know, there's The Rock flexing a cast off of his arm is a completely reasonable thing to do. Kicking a torpedo that's been fired from a nuclear submarine to redirect it on a giant glacier. Yeah, that's perfectly reasonable. While you're driving a Lamborghini on the glacier,
on ice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For spectacle, though, nobody's got them beat. That's for sure.
I know. The only thing would be if they were just doing like a genuine, you know, like genuine effects, like I forgot what the term is.
Practical effects. Yeah.
Practical effects, yeah, where they're actually there, like
blowing things up.
Yeah, blowing things up.
$350 million in damage today to the Vatican after the crew of lost control of an explosion in the Fast X movie filming. That's what happened to Notre Dame. Is they were filming a Fast and Furious movie there. That's how it caught fire and burned down. Yeah. All right. Well, that's Furious 7. And then our number one top 40 song in its 13th week, With a Bullet. Number one, Uptown Funk with, no signs of showing no signs of slowing down. I will be astounded if it is not the number one song next week when we do our final episode. So we will see. But that gets the preliminaries out of the way. So let's get into this episode. We've got a lot to talk about here. It's weird. There's some weird sort of moments here. And then we've got a couple character retirements we're going to want to get to. And so, yeah. So we start with Boyd pulling over. I mean, we saw at the end of the last episode that Boyd was in a cop car. He pulls over a driver who's got a beat up pickup truck. He hijacks the vehicle. I mean, clearly, generally a better idea to be rolling around as a passenger in a truck than a stolen police car. So you give him credit for thinking that far ahead, right? Because you're going to get caught in that stolen police car. And so they drive off into the night. We don't know exactly what's going to happen there, but we have a pretty good idea. Art arrives at Raylan's car to find his badge, and Tim, tells him what's going on. He's unhappy with the situation. And, Raylan, of course, is out in the woods looking for the hill people. And he finds one of the hill people. And there's a whole bunch of dialogue and conversation that happens here. But basically the gist of what we learn is that Cousin Mary is dead. So the one that saved Raylan's butt last time is dead. There's a bunch of hill people wandering around in the woods looking for a new place to live because they had to get moved off of their land due to the coal mining issues. So I guess their land got polluted and they weren't able to live on it anymore. So now they're sort of nomads. So they have this whole conversation, and Raylan uses the hill person to help, sort of guide him up the mountain because he's looking for Groobs's shack as well, and he doesn't know where it is. But the hill people can maybe help him find it. They talk about the past. Apparently, we learned that apparently Arlo helped the hill people or used the hill people to help him move drugs, which again. That sounds about right for Arlo.
Yeah. It seems like he would have made a lot more money, though.
Yeah. He was. That's the thing. He was a penny ante. I think Raylan referred to him as a penny ante criminal. He never went big enough to actually make any money. He'd get a little bit of money and blow it, and then be right back where he was. So
yeah.
Turns out criminals aren't that smart.
Oh, well, that's true. Not all of them are Hannibal Lecter.
That's right. Yeah, that's why he was able to get away with it for so long. So they have a further discussion about the past, and we learn about Arlo, and then Raylan, he had promised to sell his place to Loretta for a fair price, to sell Arlo's place to Loretta for a fair price, and it turns out that he can't do that because she's affiliated with Boyd Crowder now. So he signs it over to the hill people, and he gives them like a deed that says, I give my property to the man holding this letter or whatever. And I'm like, I don't think that's going to hold up.
Do you think they used to do that? Maybe they used to do that. They
absolutely
right?
used to do that. That absolutely used to happen. So the question is, what would happen if Raylan didn't make it down off the mountain? Would they be able to take that deed that's been signed over to them and potentially get the property? You know what? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the answer to that question is, because it's the statute. Without getting into a law minute, we'll be very quick about this. The statute of frauds, which would be required for a transfer of land in this instance, means that you have to have a signed writing in order to memorialize the transaction. The thing is that is a signed writing, and there's no real looking into whether or not the writing is sufficient. So someone would have to be one of Raylan's heirs. So it would have to be Willa, I suppose, would have to bring a case that said that they justifiably didn't have the property. And then they would litigate and determine whether or not that was a sufficient evidencing of intent to transfer the property, and to whom. And that's going to be a question of fact. I don't know how that one's going to spin out.
Yeah. So what, like if